Perfect. Wow. Awesome. It worked today. Yay. Um, Happy New Year, friends. OpenJS Standards Working Collab Space friends. Welcome to our first meeting of 2024. We are going to kick off with, remembering all the things and any announcements too. So are there any announcements anybody has to share, OpenJS related, standards related, or just general like project related news?
Well, I know people keep asking us about events for this year. We are not having an OpenJS World. We are having collab summits. The program committee has been working throughout the year. We have a program committee meeting tomorrow morning if you're interested in, part of the foundation community, where we're going to sort of just look at the final plan as we've all seen it, and Kylie will be presenting that. So if you're interested, give me a shout, because it's not a public meeting, but if you're interested, you're welcome to come.
Awesome. I have a small, just share. The Linux Foundation is hosting, as part of its Open Source Summit North America event, a micro conference on standards and specifications. And I know I dropped a link to this in Slack, but I want to encourage everybody to respond to the CFP, which closes on Sunday. We're really excited about this micro conference. It kind of really goes to show how much energy and enthusiasm there is in open source for open standards work. So we're hoping to kind of build a community of practitioners with that track, and also give projects like OpenJS a chance to share some of the awesome standards work that they've been doing on a kind of focus stage. So that's the Standards and Specifications Forum at Open Source Summit North America. CFP closes on January the 14th. So
Jory, if there's just a handful of speaking slots and people want to do panels or whatever, is that maybe something you recommend? Because you're going to be representing the whole gamut of technologies and scenarios.
Yeah, I think a panel would be great. When I have been answering the question, like, why did we want to do this? It really does get to, and I think a panel is a great idea, because what we want to foster is more of that, and I know that we do here in the Standards Working Group, more of that interorganizational collaboration, discussion, shared learning, just support systems, and and best practices and that kind of stuff. And a panel would be great. A lightning talk would be great. I think we are interested both in news from projects about specific achievements that they have met, but then also, what can we learn from IETF? What can we learn from ECMA? And in fact, the ED of ECMA has agreed to be on the program committee. So really excited to have their support, and OASIS as well. So W3C, there's some W3C friends who are like, we're really busy, we want to support, but we'll see if they have time. So cool. Yeah. Other announcements? I know you had CPC just before this meeting, so we don't need to announce any of those things, but project announcements or anything like that. Super
DC 39, the 100th meeting is in a month, the first week of February. It'll be in San Diego.
Jordan, can you flag that for Kylie so we don't forget, and then we'll do something fun, celebratory on social?
Absolutely.
Thanks.
That is fun. Like 100 feels like my daughter is schooled as like, the 100th day kind of celebration. And I think that's actually coming up in February too, by the way. That's funny. So you should do something like bring everybody 100 gumdrops or something.
I think the chairs have planned something for those that are there.
Cool.
I'm not sure what yet.
I'm excited to learn what it is.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. Well, if there are no other announcements to share, I will move us on to the next section of our meeting, which is liaison reports. I don't see Toby today, so probably won't have an update from the Open Source Initiative / Open Policy Alliance work. TC39 friends, you just mentioned the meeting. Any other sorts of themes or topics or FYIs to report from TC39 today?
Closer to the meeting, I might talk about specific items that are on the agenda, but it's still a little premature for that.
I can give a quick OSI. It's not the policy work that Toby's working on, but it's a license. I know people have been tracking the Blue Oak license. The authors very kindly submitted that license to OSI on our behalf. It's been going through a public comment period, and it looks like it will go through for a board vote at OSI on the 19th. So that's good news for us because it's a dependency that's in many of our projects and others. So
the 19th of January?
19th of January.
Oh.
Yeah. We have an open issue in the CPC. So we've been tracking that, but it's also up in the new license forum as well at OSI. You want to track.
Winter CG proposal to join ECMA is happening. I think that's just kind of like still in progress, still early to report anything super official, but the direction is moving that way. It would become TC 55, I believe, if it all works out.
So, oh, okay. So it's applying to be a new TC at ECMA. That's great. I didn't understand if that was the cool.
Yeah, and the goal is really motivations is to try to start publishing their own specs as actual specs and doing so in a way that, as we've talked about before, like having the structure to be able to either like host code and implementations in such a way or gain support. It also will hopefully open the door for the group to collaborate more effectively on existing standards bodies. We are trying to, for example, like Fetch, there is all of this like, forked Fetch spec work that we're trying to sort of walk away from, and we want to see if we can actually contribute to the existing Fetch spec and say, here we're we're an official standards body ourselves. Hopefully that's a little more weight and can convince the powers that be to expand some of those other web APIs.
Awesome. And do you know when I guess it'd be targeted for June that the General Assembly would probably be able to ratify that? Are you on track for June, do you think?
I don't have a great answer for you there. I am sort of waiting in the wings to just like keep tabs on it. However it happens. I'm not the main driver because I'm also not super familiar with all of the TC39 processes yet. But I promise that whenever there is more official progress, I will definitely know of it and I will definitely share it as wide as I can.
Well, I think that's really cool. And I think also it'd be sort of like a great, if you guys are kind of keeping track of like how you went about doing this, it's the kind of material that makes a great talk or say, how we did this. So anyway, just throwing that out there as an idea.
Love it.
So that was Winter CG, OSI, TC39. I don't have Leia here to talk about tag. Mike Champion.
She said she's running late, so she might chat about it when she gets here.
Okay. From the just W3C bigger.
Been pretty quiet over the holidays. I can't think of much interesting drama. I know there was a request for input on who the team should appoint to the tag, but I just noticed that that expired on the 5th. So, well, yeah, I'm not aware of anything of interest to this group happening. much of all happening in W3C land lately. Yeah. So.
The tag election did close. I think we shared the results in Slack in maybe early December. Yeah. So
So yeah, I think it pretty much came out the way we ranked people. At least I think the critical need was to get the previous chairs elected, since they couldn't be appointed, or according to some theories, they couldn't be appointed. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so anyway, I think that came out pretty much as hoped, or at least within reasonable expectations. So yeah, I guess the AB election isn't for a few months. So.
and the AB meeting is usually in the spring.
Oh yeah, AC meeting is
AC, yes.
Yeah, where that's somewhere reasonably accessible, like Toronto, isn't it?
That is a good question. Let's go look it up.
Or maybe it's the AB meeting is in Toronto. I can't remember.
Oh no, AC 2024 is in Japan.
Oh, okay.
TPAC is going to be in California.
Oh, okay.
So that is, yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, with the board having settled in and the CEO presumably settling in, I mean, if we were to want to talk to them about, open source / open standards initiatives, I mean, this would probably be a good time, but I don't have anything specific in mind. So,
Good.
yeah.
I heard somebody start to say so.
Oh, no. So I don't know what to say about that, other than, just keeping, it is sort of at an inflection point. So if there was thought on how, the two communities could work better together, this would probably be a good time to think about them. But I can't think of anything in particular that, is pressing.
It might be worth waiting to see if Leah joins, and we can kind of come back to that, because I mean, and also if Robin's going to reach out to the new CEO, he may have some ideas as well.
I'm wondering, I think that security collaboration we did with W3C was really, well done. It was hard to get everybody in the room, but even like the precursor sessions we had at Open Source Summit Europe, I think was great. So it seems like it'd be a good idea to keep that going. Open Source Summit North America, the one you're saying it's a standards micro conference, that is in Seattle. So, yeah. Speaking of a easy location, Michael.
Oh, geez, you should. Wonderful.
Yeah. But those meetings, the program committee meetings, moved to Mondays at 5 a.m. So I have not been attending, and I don't know if they're still on track, but I think it'd be good to get that going again.
The other group we have, but Emily is not here, is the message format. So we will just put that on pause. Am I missing any of our collaborators, partners? I don't think so. I think I got everybody, but. All right. Let me just all right, I'll move us on to our issues. The first issue that, and also it looks like our agenda creation tool is working again. So thank you, team, for fixing the automated tool. The first issue is issue number 260, which I thought we could close. And Michael Champion, I saw that you had closed it and then reopened it. But this was the issue for the call for nominations for the tag. I think this can be closed unless there's any reason to.
I'm not sure why I would have reopened it. I thought I was just closing it as a, but okay.
All right, closed. It says you closed it and then you reopened it. So and that may have been a mistake. So that's no big deal.
Oh.
So great.
Or yeah, maybe I thought I was exceeding my authority. I don't know, but anyway.
You have authority to close.
Yeah, I've sort of figured that yeah, when it's clearly the deadline is passed, then not an issue anymore. But yeah, it's possible maybe the comments had morphed into some other discussion. I can't remember, but
cool. So that issue is closed. The next one is on meeting / schedule conflicts, and I think Chris had opened this to just capture anything that we were aware of that might need to be planned around for the TC39 plenaries, if I recall correctly, because there are lots of things that can be kind of in conflict. I think we provided a pretty thorough list to Chris, most notably TPAC and the open source summit events can be conflicts for
I had an update from Emily a couple weeks ago. There's a Unicode consortium, but that's the day after the TC39 in San Diego, February 8th. So I don't know if you're tracking Unicode.
No, I don't have Unicode events in our calendar. I'd love to have, certainly those that are relevant. So
I think that may be San Francisco.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I don't know that there is anything else on this if we don't have any other. I haven't seen anything else scheduled, so I will just confirm with Chris that he's ready for this to be closed, because and then update the calendar. All right. Our next issue is issue 256. This is document guidance for requesting travel funds for standards WG related activities. Inside that issue, I think, here we go. Inside that issue is a link to the document that we had collaborated on previously. I'll drop that into the chat for us. And I feel like, and this is where I say it's first meeting of the year, so trying and refreshing our memory where everything stood. Am I correct that the CPC met to advise on the budget here, and so this is like locked in, or at least this proposal was locked in and taken into account, and we have a budget now, or no?
That's a very good question. Go ahead, Robin. I'll turn it over.
Go ahead, Joe. We've been, it's a work in progress. This group is like 2 steps ahead as usual. We're working on setting up sort of a criteria, like a weighted score on, you know, if we get too many requests, how do we score them? What are the categories? Kind of a rubric. And we're having a working session on that on Friday. We're also working on just some other policies, like how many times people can get funded and things like that. So it's coming together. I love what you all did, because the forecasting is going to be critical, because there's just, you know, going to be more requests than budget.
Yeah, I'm going to share this with Ben too. He and I are going to try to get together this week to, essentially the plan is we have a board meeting a week from Friday. We're going to have an ad hoc meeting this week to kind of just figure out basically there's the front end, you know, how do people apply? And then there's the back end for like, what are the rules? What's the rubric? We want to get the front end really in place so that we can present that to the board. But the hope is that we get it all in place before next Friday. So we're going to have a working session in 1 week to really dig into the rules and the rubric. So we're hoping to get it all put together to show to the board on Friday, and have like a PR and everything documented and landed. Maybe I shouldn't say landed, but at least proposed within 2 weeks.
So in terms of like for this group and kind of next steps then with this document, it feels like maybe what we could or should do is, assuming that we're good, that it's we're happy with the rationale material that we came up with, it might be good to just then put that in the repo and then close this issue, and just because then as a matter of pattern and practice, at the end of this year, we should develop a rationale for what we think will happen in 2025 in terms of like travel support needs, and kind of is that how is that helpful? I mean, I think that's maybe the big question, is like what's helpful to share with the board, with the CPC community, like here's what we're trying to do from like a strategic perspective. Yeah. And okay,
I think all the information that you can provide to us, especially in forecasting, will be very helpful. You know, I think that we, as a group on the CPC, are trying to be realistic about the fact that the process that we're building will probably need to be tweaked as we go. And so I just messaged Ben, you know, this document, and that this is another thing we need to factor into how we think this is going to work. If groups can forecast, that should really be taken into consideration. So any information you can share is helpful for sure.
So then it feels like what might be appropriate for this document, like this document would be, maybe we can all take a look at it again really quick if we don't mind.
Yeah, one thing I think that you might want to add in this document, there's one of the rubric categories is reason for travel, you know, and then the role that person has at the foundation. So whether they're, you know, we discussed whether they're on a TSC or leadership or what have you. So I think those 2 things might just need to be.
Okay, so we would have like, I'm going to make this just a suggestion really quick. So add reason for travel for each of these instances.
And role.
And role with the foundation.
Yep.
Yeah, so my assumption is like, you know, for these sorts of things, it'll be like, you know, standards, collab space, contributor role is to participate in, you know, OpenJS related standards work, and that will kind of more heavily than other requests, I would imagine.
Well, and this came up in the previous meeting as well is that, like, for example, much of the time when I'm going to TC39, it's generally relevant to everything, but not like specifically relevant to an OpenJS project all the time. And it's it makes sense to me that if it's a choice between one of two requests, a general one and a specific one, that we would prioritize the specific one. And so we want to make sure we're gathering that information so that we can make that determination. Obviously, ideally, we include everyone, but budget
Yeah,
limits.
like this, we had an example where somebody was working on a specific issue at TC39 for the node project. So that would be
Right.
weighted.
Like that's a higher priority than just general,
Mhm.
being there for stuff.
Yeah, and even though we're trying to put this framework together to help us score, I think it's still going to be relatively subjective.
Mhm.
When we're like, oh, well, of course, Jordan is at pretty much most of the TC39 meetings. We should support that work. Just things like that. So,
Right. Yeah. Like I obviously I want to, for myself as well, I want to make sure that my activity is included, is eligible, but like there's no argument that like what that particular request would like that particular request is inarguably more important as a one-off thing than my consistent attendance. And so like I would like to see the rubric structured to allow for both and to just indicate prioritization when choices need to be made.
And the rubric, the score informs, it doesn't decide. So the CPC
Right.
will still, use that as just a data point. Important data point.
and just as some more information, sorry, I'll just say really quickly, Michael, that our expectation is that we'll review these regularly at the CPC. We'll email them out, and we'll make sure that things aren't getting missed and scored improperly. Michael?
I'm not sure if this is appropriate for this document, but one thing I'd like to encourage is, some sort of trip report so that the rest of the community, gets some collective value from sponsoring this engagement, appearance, whatever. So maybe something like link to where is the trip report going to be, or something like that. Might be a gentle nudge to make that happen.
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm taking notes right now on that.
Yeah, and that's a space we could create like within our repo, trip reports, liaison reports, things, some section like that, and provide folks with a template of like,
Yeah.
here's what's we learned, and here's why it's relevant for OpenJS projects, and yeah, so great. So then in that case, it sounds like there's just a few more like little tweaks to this document to make. So we will add that information, and then I'll open a pull request to add it as a reference document to our repository, and then the CPC can access it and use it to inform their rubric. And that sounds like a great next step, and we will just kind of await further instruction from Joe and Ben and Robin and the board. So perfect. Hi, Leia.
Hello, sorry I'm late. My
No.
previous meeting ran late.
No problem. No problem at all. No apologies necessary. We did want, we did the kind of liaison reports, bearing in mind that it was the holidays, and I sincerely hope that the tag did not meet. Are there any updates?
Our first meeting was yesterday, and we looked over some design reviews, like nothing much to report. I mean, unless you're interested in the particular design reviews that happened.
Not unless they're particularly pertinent to our projects.
Were there results from the election that I thought happened?
Yeah.
The election already happened. Yeah, that happened before holidays.
Okay, I just don't remember seeing the results of it.
I I thought I put that in the in Slack.
I can look it up.
Yeah, if not, I'll,
Talked about it a bit earlier. It more or less went as we hoped, or at least expected. There
Okay.
weren't any. The major thing we were trying to accomplish was make sure that the current chairs got elected seats since they couldn't be appointed. That happened.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And apart from that, Matthew Atkinson, if I remember his name right, and Max got reelected. And was it Martin Thompson, the other one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen Matthew in the meetings that we had since, and so far he's very eager to contribute, and he's already contributing quite usefully because he has accessibility expertise that we didn't have before, at least after Alice. I'm not sure I've seen Martin very much so far. But we do have a face-to-face meeting end of this month. That reminds me, I need to send a PR for it.
where is it, Gina?
London.
Oh, cold place to be at the end of January.
It seems that most of our tag meetings have been in London. Like I think I've been to like 4 since I joined, and 3 were in London, something like that. I think it's because there's a lot of members, tag members from the UK, and especially tag members that cannot travel. So it's convenient for them, and it's a hub. So typically people outside the UK can fly to London quite easily, though not necessarily cheaply.
Yeah, an expensive hub.
High taxes too for flights, I think.
And then I think we have to like start, Americans will have to start paying for visas to go too in like next year, I think. Yeah, it's like $15 or something. I was reading about it and I was like, that's a future problem for me to figure out. But there's some change and we're gonna have to start. I don't remember which countries it applies to. Anyway. Sidebar. I'll see if I can find something and drop that in Slack. Next issue, now we're just going through our issues. Our next issue is issue 253, which is the task list for converting working group to collab space. So we are now a standards collab space just to keep all of the nomenclature and sort of structure consistent across all of the OpenJS's kind of like focus areas. I think that for this issue, we had wanted to just collect a list of things that we needed to do, one of which is, for example, change references to working group to collab space and that kind of thing. The question I think is there anything else that we're missing? And I think there was something about a charter. So this is again where Joy goes, dust off the brain, try and remember what happened in 2023. Joe, do you recall that we were going to have, there was a charter template or something?
I don't know. Because I don't know if I feel like,
I don't think we have charters for collab space. We didn't for security. I don't think we wrote one. Ethan just did a summary on the package metadata one. So charters.
Yeah, sorry, Robin. I was going to say, I think it's probably good for us to document what collab spaces we have and what they will focus on. And I think, I think the charter bit, maybe we don't need to be as official as that, but I think the one thing that we've discussed in the past is like, if the CPC is delegating any sort of decision-making to this group, that should be clearly defined and approved.
So
right?
that may have been it, because I think there was an amount of like delegation that had been kind of handed off, which is like the recommendations for which other organizations we go collaborate with from like a standards liaison standpoint.
I think you'll see that in most of our collab spaces, that the groups are making decisions, you know, and then updating and informing the CPC. So, but do we have that documented on the CPC side, I think is the question.
Yeah, I think that was the only thing that we kind of brought over from the Node project was like, if it is an official working group, then you need to just be clear about what decisions are delegated to that group. And I think it's been fairly informal with what we have with the other collab spaces, you know, and that things are brought back to the CPC. But I think, you know, if we expect that the standards group will make decisions before like any sort of CPC approval, that should be laid out. But, you know, again, I don't know if we're just really getting into the weeds here and it's not, you know, necessary.
I mean, it may just be something as simple as like us updating the README or like some other kind of point on our repository that says like, you know, the kinds of things the kind of decisions that we take for OpenJS as a whole are who to nominate for chat, you know, like these sorts of things. So it's a little bit clearer when, you know, so that seems like, so okay. So this issue 253 has a task list in it that Toby created. I just added the task add to list of OpenJS collab spaces. So if there is a spot on the OpenJS website or on the CPC repo where you're collecting the official list, get that. Oh, and you see, just drop the link. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put that in my notes. So it feels like these are fairly easy to check off. I'm gonna change because Toby's includes create charter per CPC template for collab space. What I'm hearing is that is not necessary, but rather document decisions that have been delegated to the collab space. Okay.
That's my thinking.
And I think the only maybe nuance that would be important with this group is that you're not making decisions on standards that impact a specific project without, yeah.
Yeah, it would, and I don't think that's our remit anyway, right? I think our remit is to help make the information about what might be impactful to the projects available. And if the projects and the community need or really want us to take a specific stance, that this is the channel to do that. Cool.
Yeah, I dropped a link in there and I don't want it to confuse the matter, but that's the working groups link, which does lay out more of like the charter and decisions delegated. I shared it mostly so that you can see the standards working group is in there and there are things that are enumerated.
Okay.
So that might be helpful if you want to update the README or something.
Okay, cool. So it sounds like then for one of these tasks, what we need to do is remove us from the working groups.md file and
I wouldn't even worry about that. I think we should just get rid of that once the CPC really lands the work. I would just add to the README of the CPC and then update your own README accordingly.
Okay. All right. We can I'll try and have a PR open about that for our next meeting, because I mean this is just sort of administrative, so
yeah,
nothing's really changing, just our name, so that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, sorry for all the churn. I mean, I think this is a good thing. We're simplifying, but it is a bit of churn, so sorry.
And Rick's making a great point. If there's only one working group in there, it's like kind of like silly. So,
yeah.
So. Great. Okay. 240, which I feel like, did we close this? No. Why did I think that this was closed? All good. Oh, because I needed Toby to. approve his, yes, Rick, let me get you here's the agenda link. I think this is just waiting on Toby to drop his, to approve. That pull request has been open for a minute though.
He's out this week, but yeah, just a nudge, yeah.
Well, goal would be to have this one closed by the end of the month because we've been bringing it with us for a while. And that one is just the cleanup for a lot of like kind of documentation and clarification that our group has aligned on over the last several months in terms of, you know, how we work and what our role is for the foundation. So, and then if we land this, we can then close the subsequent issue or the related issue, which is 173 around subject matter expert participation in the standards bodies. So these two items can/will be resolved with that last like approval from, which if Toby will provide his approval. And then that gets to the end of the list of items that were tagged for agenda. So let me go back to just the issues overall.
Maybe just remind people of your CFP because we had some late
Yeah.
joiners. Yeah.
Thank you, Robin. Yeah, Rick and Leah, we have an event happening in Seattle as part of the Open Source Summit North America. We're doing a standards and specifications forum at that event. So it's a micro conference. It'll be a single track sort of set of programming. The goal being to help kind of create a community of open standards practitioners to share best practices, celebrate project wins, particularly as you think about so much of this work going online and leveraging software development tooling like Git. A lot of standards folks are not familiar with like best practices for using GitHub, for example. So like things like this are hot topics in the world of standards, and we would love to kind of create a space for our communities to come share best practices, new tools, that kind of stuff. And so we're doing a CFP. It is closing on Sunday. So we are hoping people will come share their knowledge with us. So
and the Linux Foundation also has its own travel fund for underrepresented communities.
That's a great additional.
Do you want to drop a link to that CFP and
yeah. Let me go grab that. Here is the link to that, and I'm going to put it in the notes as well. And if you'll scroll down partway, you'll see the CFP. All right. Is there any other business anybody would like to raise today? I see we lost Richard excuse me, Jordan. Any other news or topics or agenda items for next time also requested kindly? Oh, I have something I just realized. The next meeting of the Standards Working Group is Tuesday the 23rd That is our company all hands. So I have to put myself right now as a solid maybe for that. Probably not, because it's gonna be 10 a.m. local time. I will not be here next time on the 23rd.
And same, because I'll be with you.
Yes, that's right. Robin and I will be together again at last.
Same, because it conflicts with the tag meeting.
Okay, then I'm going to say we're canceling that meeting because it sounds like we're going to have lots of so we will cancel for the 23rd, which then gives me a little bit more time to do my action items. So then we will see you all on February the 6th for our next meeting. Cool. Great. I will remove this from the calendar, and we can, I'll stop the recording now. Let me hit stop once I figure out how to do that, actually.